called tools of last resort. Here's my language, something you can use that can be highly effective, but we call it tools of last resort. Not to be used unless, like, there's no hope left. This is the only last chance. There's no other possible way. Then you reach in your bag of tools for the tools of last resort. So let me give you some of those. Number one is a direct attack. You, instead of using yourself as an example, using third party as an example, you go right after somebody. It's called a direct attack on the problem that's mixed in with the person. And you're trying to be delicate and careful, but they need to hear it direct. That you've got to be very careful of. Use every other means possible first before you go for the direct attack. Third party, use yourself, every illustration you can think of, but if finally that doesn't do it, finally you may have to say you. But now you must do it very carefully and only as a tool of last resort. Here's another one. Sarcasm. Sarcasm is a useful communication tool, but you must be careful how you use it. Sarcasm says, who do you think you are? That's what God said to Job. Job was complaining. Oh, well, this and that and this and that. And God gave Job an unbelievable lesson. He says, where were you when I put the worlds in place? Where were you when I flung the stars into the heavens? Where were you? Hiding under a bush? I mean, this is sort of an ego trip for God, working on Job. A bit of sarcasm. But the time had come, and Job needed to hear it. There was no other recourse but to go right after him and say, hey, sure enough, it turned around. Someone walks in late and you say, where have you been? Especially if it's an assembled group. You got to be very careful of things like that. Where have you been? See, that's loaded with you don't care. That's loaded. So you got to be careful with loaded statements, especially exposing something in an audience of people. Best to do those kind of things private. Get someone off to the side and say, hey, late one more time and I'm telling you, you won't be welcome here anymore. But see, you can't just jump the gun here with sarcasm. Tools of what? Last resort, when there's no hope left and this is the only way. Here's the next one, scolding. You have to be very careful of scolding. Scolding sometimes as a last resort is very necessary, but you must be very careful. Scolding someone is like giving them a cut. Giving them a cut with your words, like on the hand, giving a cut. And maybe it'll serve its purpose, and the cut will heal, and everything will be okay. You needed to get their attention. Scolding. But you mustn't do it every day, all the time. Some children wind up with these psychic scars because they've been slashed and cut every day. Scold, slash, cut, scold, every day. And they wind up psychologically disadvantaged because of this kind of treatment. Somebody who has the words that are cruel, but they use them too often, all the time, rather than saving it up for a tool of last resort. They just cut and slash all the time. And kids sometimes have a hard time working out of this problem because of that kind of atmosphere. Too severe, we say, is too severe. In some countries, if you steal, they cut off your hand. That's a bit too severe, isn't it? A little too severe? Maybe a little piece of the finger, but not the whole hand. But guess what they say? It's very effective. Say, did you ever steal anything else? Are you kidding with just one hand? No. So it is effective. But we would say what? Too severe. What do we say with someone that now has been convicted? They must not suffer what? Cruel and unusual punishment. Hopefully we will continue to be a country that does not administer cruel and unusual punishment. Now, parents, let me talk to you about cruel and unusual punishment. You must be gifted in thinking of ways. Now, sometimes severity is needed, but only as a last resort. John Kennedy's father, old Joe, said this to John, and it'll serve in so many ways, and you'll see when I give it to you. Here's what old Joe Kennedy said. If it is not necessary to change, it is necessary not to change. If it's not necessary to change, it's necessary not to change. So I'm sure you've got that message now. If it is not absolutely necessary to scold, then it's necessary not to scold. If it's not necessary to use sarcasm, then it's necessary in all the rest of your speech not to use sarcasm. If it's not necessary to use, it's necessary not to use. A mother who screams all day at her children. Finally, the kids get used to it. Mama just screams all day. Kids come over to visit and they say, don't mind Mama, she's just a screamer. I mean, she just screams all day at everything, screams all day. So the kids are used to it. But now comes the big problem. When the 3-year-old child is headed for the street and a truck is coming and Mama screams, nobody pays any attention. See, Mama should have what? Tell him I'm not here. So jot this down now. Mama should save up her screams so that the day she does, and it becomes a necessary tool of last resort, the day she screams, the world stops. See, that's the key. Tools of what? Last resort. Last. Here's another one, temper. If it's not necessary to lose your temper, now sometimes it is, but if it's not necessary, then it is necessary not to lose your temper. Just hang on to that emotional explosion. Yes, you could explode all over somebody, but only as a last resort if it's called for, but not all the time. All of us have to contain ourselves. Here's the first law of a civilized society, the restraint of power and the restraint of the evil side of our nature. When a little 3-year-old boy hits another 3-year-old boy over the head, if he's not restrained, he will do it again. And if he's not further restrained, he will probably enjoy it. And we have the beginning of an uncivilized person. The first mark of civilization, to be in a civilized society, is the restraint of your emotion, the restraint of your words, the restraint of your power. That's the beginning of a civilized society. And so it is in civilized language. So it is in civilized communication. The restraint of being so powerful you blow somebody away or make a situation so impossible it'll never be cured. Effective but careful. Easy, powerful but easy. Speaking of Jesus one more time, it's so easy to use the Bible as almost an exclusive source of stories and illustrations. The record tells us, according to the storytellers, the record tells us that Jesus in 3.5 years of his ministry only lost his cool just a few times. Just a few times. Not a few times a day. No. just a few times in 3.5 years. See, that's the key. But when he did, beware. There's one scene where he drove them out of the temple, kicked over the money changer's table, screamed like a Comanche, grabbed a whip, and drove them all out of the place until it was empty. Everybody says, "Get out of here, he's on a rampage." Have you got it? But this is your notes now. Not every day. So I'm asking you, okay, the restraint of power, yes, you could use. Yes, you could empty the place. Yes, you could create unbelievable havoc and have some sort of satisfaction. But see, only as a tool of last resort. Whether it's the community or a company or a person or a child, right? Restraint of power. We must be careful with power. A father must be careful with power so that his children doesn't live in his shadow. A father must restrain to be a good father. Restrain. Yes, he could. Yes, he's capable. Yes, he can beat him half to death. But he must restrain, restrain, restrain. That's a civilized society. And the more powerful you are, the more careful you have to be. Hey, the elephant must be careful where he steps. You say, well, but this is a big, big, happy, friendly elephant. Yes, but the mouse is dead. He didn't see him. He just went walking, and now the poor mouse is gone. He didn't mean to, but he's so big that he has to be careful where he steps. We've got powerful people in this room today. I'm asking you to be careful where you step, and be careful what you say, and be careful what you write. Be careful in conversation, wise but careful, strong but easy, and good communication belongs to you. Now here's one more that is so unique. If you're ready, say I'm ready. Ready. You can't imagine how exciting it was for me to come and be here today. Then we got tomorrow and another day. Wow, this is heavyweight stuff for me. Chance to share ideas. Here's the last one now, on communication. Then I got a few more things and then we'll be finished. The more you care, the stronger you can be. See, that's the key. The more you care, the stronger you can be. Even children will allow you to really get on their case if they know you really care. If there's no doubt about your sincerity. If there's no doubt about your heart that breaks when you have to cover something unpleasant. There's no doubt about that. And the more you care, the stronger you can be. And then if you're going to be strong, you have to care. There are some conversations that you have with your children that don't make sense if you don't cry. If the tears don't flow, this conversation doesn't make sense. This is just belligerence. I don't mind a minister consigning my soul to hellfire for my sinful ways, as long as he does it with tears and not with joy. If you were going to preach a sermon on hellfire, wouldn't you have to sob and cry? If you're going to preach hellfire, you have to sob and cry. If dry-eyed you preach hellfire, everybody dismisses it as a performance. Unless your heart breaks, unless the tears flow, you can't preach hellfire for an individual. It doesn't make sense. We dismiss it as ego. But if your heart breaks and the tears flow, you can cover some pretty heavyweight stuff.